Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Mark on the World show. Today, we're going to talk about an incredible new technology that helps make our whole entire food supply much more sustainable and can leapfrog us forward into the next 100 years. We'll investigate this with co-founder and partner Justin Kamine of KDC Agriculture. Stay with us.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. And, you built up this technology quite a bit in our minds, but I want to start with first a little proof point so that people can get over their initial skepticism when we talk about something as incredible as what you're talking about. But you recently won an award from the Prince of Monaco. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we were invited out by the Prince of Monaco about 3-4 months ago as one of the 30 technologies from around the world that was the most transformative. And we ended up winning that award, and we're honored there by the Prince of Monaco. But it was great publicity and great support for what we hope is a global and revolutionary technology.
It is really pretty amazing. So tell us about what it does, what it is. What are you doing?
Yeah, so we, as a development team and family-owned company, we started to focus on that we as a society throw away 40% of the food that we actually grow. And a large portion of that was stemming from supermarkets. They knew that the banana with the brown spot on it was not going to sell comparatively to the banana that had the bright yellow. So we started and focused on how do we collect all of that food, and not just the fruits and vegetables, but also the meats and baked goods. And we came up with this thesis that said your human digestion process is actually the most efficient user of food. Our current practices of composting or waste to energy was just allowing a lot of those nutrients to degrade over time. So we said, why can't we just create a technology that we could actually scale to an infrastructure level that could mimic this 3-hour human digestion process? So 6 years ago, we started that concept and that idea. And now recently we've successfully commercialized that technology where we consume hundreds of supermarkets worth of food waste, and within 3 hours we have digested all of that food, where we put it through a grinder very similar to your teeth, use digestive enzymes very similar to your stomach. We then pasteurize that product and screen it and blend it for consistency so that the very next day those nutrients can go directly into the soil through existing drip irrigation lines for farmers or to an animal, pigs or chickens, and really complete this entire agricultural cycle so that there is no waste, and we're truly, as a society, utilizing food waste to its maximum benefit to grow more produce and more animals in a more environmentally sensible way.
Now, this sounds almost as gross as it sounds cool. I wouldn't eat anything that came out of the back end of a human. Do chickens and pigs like this stuff?
They absolutely do. And we often get that it does sound, and the analogy of the human, it doesn't make it always seemingly so pleasant. Although when the end product comes out, we are taking full human quality food. And the end product for the pigs and chickens, honestly, I've tasted it. It tastes like Raisin Bran. It's still human quality feed, which is amazing. So now we're actually feeding our animals healthier, better, more nutrients, and better quality nutrients. And the soil for the fertilizer, it too smells like Caesar dressing, and it tastes like it too. So the soil loves it, and it's not rocket science what we're doing, but when we're able to capture those nutrients at their maximum height before they start to rot, we're starting to see amazing things happen in the soil and also in animals.
So so you say you're including meat in this process. So are we feeding pigs to pigs, chickens to chickens?
To a point, yes. But the benefit of the enzymes and the enzymatic digestion of this all is that at the end product, we do take in meats into our process, and At the end of the day, when they're broken down all by the enzymes, you are simply just left with amino acids. And so after the whole full pasteurization of that process, at the end of the day, the chickens and pigs, for the most part, across the U.S. are allowed to be fed that. We are not feeding it to cows, as that is not allowed by certain regulations.
I see. Now, the putting it into the soil seems to be almost a no-brainer, and it seems like there are some limits to the carrying capacity of our soil and the fertilizers, nitrogen, chemical fertilizers. Tell us a little bit about how this addresses those problems.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So given the full spectrum of nutrients in our product, when the farmer does utilize it, whether it's during the crop growth cycle or what many farmers are coining as compost 2.0, they're able to put this directly through their drip irrigation line, and it's all part about precision agriculture. They're able to get the same nutrients into the same spot where they want it, at that tree or in the soil, and it's not having to degrade over time as compost typically would. It's going directly into the soil, and it's this full balanced diet. So when you think about a cup of soil has 1 billion microorganisms in it. We keep feeding them good nutrients, well, they keep growing and providing the soil much better characteristics. And so especially with the whole kind of compost 2.0 notion, if you think about typical composting, you spread it once and you hope, especially as a big farmer, you hope that it degrades into the soil. Well, now they're able to consistently hit that soil with a couple gallons every month or so to continuously feed their soil healthy nutrients. And with a lot of trials with UC Davis and some other additional farmers out in California, we've seen actually by doing this and by using this type of practice, you are not only reducing the amount of food waste and greenhouse gases associated with that, but you're actually reducing and significantly reducing the amount of chemical consumption of fertilizers and water consumption. Our product is inherently 75% water, so you're putting a lot of that back into the soil. And then by increasing the root growth and the soil health, you're thereby actually reducing the amount of chemicals that farmers need to be putting onto their lands. So that's really the whole emphasis and the focus of the company, is to help not only revitalize our soils, but then also drastically reduce the amount of chemicals and water consumption that our farmers are using.
And what are you doing to source the surplus food?
Yeah, it's a great question. So that's part of the whole infrastructure background that our family has stemmed from. We've developed $3.5 billion worth of infrastructure to date. We hope that continues to expand. But having that understanding and that kind of development mindset has really led us to the understanding of how to make this as scalable as we hope it is, which is to deploy this technology across all 50 states and completely eliminate supermarket food waste. And so to do so, we actually have co-located or put our manufacturing facilities which emit no odors, no effluent, and we utilize 100% of the food that we take in. So therefore, we're actually considered by a lot of the regulatory agencies as more of a fresh food recycler or a food processor. So thereby, we can actually co-locate our manufacturing facilities in close proximity to the the supermarket distribution centers, and have much more of a backhaul model. So thereby, we can actually drastically reduce their cost, the supermarket cost of getting rid of that waste. So that's how we see and envision a real national rollout of this program.
And you indicated that in our preliminary discussion that you had some contracts under discussion already that would give this some national scale. Tell us a little bit about that and how you're progressing.
Yeah, well, of course, I can't disclose the names right now. But yes, we are desiring and working with some companies that can utilize the technology to its maximum benefit. I can produce, and as a company, we can produce either the liquid fertilizer, a concentrate of that fertilizer, so we can skim off some of the water and create more of a seed coating, or as an animal feed. So that's the real benefit of what our infrastructure is capable of doing. So when you talk about some of these big national and international companies, food waste is all around. I can provide a consistent pathogen-free product across the nation. It's amazing the consistency of food that we do get, but then we do blend it like a wine. So it is always coming out on the nutrient label that we can sell at. So I can provide to someone, a big company, that same product all across the nation. And it's a tremendous, not only product within the soil or in an animal, all at a cost competitive price, but at the end of the day, it's also this huge, huge sustainability story, and creating this entire closed loop agricultural system that, quite frankly, society needs to go to. And when you look at the amount of food waste that we can capture from supermarkets, this is going to be an exclusive product to someone.
It seems like this has real change the world potential. Tell us a little bit about the roots and the origin story. You gave us the 30,000 foot version. Let's come down a little bit. Tell us where this idea came from and how it's matured.
Yeah, so it stems actually about 25, 30 years ago. My father was an entrepreneur. He developed, owned, and operated 600 megawatts worth of natural gas cogen facilities. He then built a $2.5 billion telecom business, and all that infrastructure development, owning, and operating large-scale assets was kind of what my brother and I grew up doing or listening to. And when we graduated college, we wanted to kind of go out there and try to save the world. So we built around a large solar business. And then 6 years ago, we invested into the California Safe Soil technology, which is the technology behind what we are doing, with this whole thesis of let's utilize food waste in a much more efficient manner. And we've helped develop that technology and worked with that group out in California. And once they got to that large-scale infrastructure commercial level, which is where they are at now, that is when KDC Ag was created. My father, my brother, and I are co-founders of this company. And because at the end of the day, we can hopefully utilize our expertise, which is really deploying large-scale infrastructure, to really hopefully benefit the agricultural world.
How much capital have you deployed in developing this so far?
So California Safe Soil has raised well over $15 million. And KDC Ag as well is within that number.
So what's the relationship today between KDC Ag and California Safe Soil? Yeah,
so us as the Kamines are still a large shareholder. I'm actually on the board of California Safe Soil. So there's a nice kind of very interlocking relationship there. We rely upon them for a lot of the technology and the R&D out at UC Davis as well. And so then it's the relationship is then that KDC Ag is supportive and also paying a royalty stream to California Safe Soil as a technology provider.
This is really an interesting opportunity because it has the potential to scale so large and at the same time to do so much good. It seems to me that from what you're saying, that's kind of a kernel of the origin stories. You were looking for something that had the potential to do both.
Yeah, absolutely. And we as the family said the thesis is in order to have the greatest impact in the world, I need to do so I need to focus on scale. So we thought infrastructure was the way to really move the needle that much quicker. And then also we also needed to be profitable, not only for us, but also for the supermarkets that throw away their food and for the farmers that grow the crops and the animals. And if we could figure out that triangle, in order to have the greatest impact in the world, I need to have greatest profitability because then that enables us to have the greatest impact. So it's kind of that full circle cycle that we said, okay, if we can do this on an infrastructure level, we can, and our goal is to eliminate supermarket food waste over the next 5 years.
You talk about eliminating supermarket food waste, which is a great goal. what kinds of foods, especially from a supermarket, but what other kinds of food waste can't you throw into your process?
So the soil does not typically like a lot of salt, which is why we are not going to the post-consumer waste. So your restaurants or your local kind of compost facilities. We do see and are working on some additional kind of processing facility locations where there's large amounts of volume on a consistent basis. And we see that as kind of the next frontier of where we are going to go.
But you can take most things from the supermarket or virtually everything.
We take everything, fruits, vegetables, meats, baked goods, down to the bones. So really everything that's in their meat department and everything that's in their produce departments.
What about packaging issues? How is it delivered to you, and then how do you separate out packaging materials?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we actually provide to the supermarkets these seafood grade bins, and they actually are able to put them into their either meat lockers or into their produce aisles, and we collect them every day or every 2 days, where then they get new bins. So it actually increases store hygiene. It also tells a great story to their employees that they're part of this process about really changing the world and revitalizing and growing healthier, better produce and animals. So the stores have absolutely loved it. Of course, they save a lot of money too doing it, and we worry about our logistics of picking that up. So really allowing the supermarkets to continue their business as usual in just a more efficient, cleaner manner.
So it seems to me your output then is 3 different products, a fertilizer, what I heard I think you call a seed coating, and then the animal pellets. It seemed to me those go in order of sort of value add. I presume the animal feed has the highest revenue, but give us a sense of the margins and whether the business is sustainable on without the animal feed.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So absolutely, the either we're selling the fertilizer, the concentrate, or the animal feed. We're relatively in the same ballpark of margins and payback of our facilities, which is all what we believe is priced competitively against anything else out there in the market that can do what we do. So we're pretty confident in that, and the margins are pretty healthy as well, so that we can, as mentioned, build a lot of these facilities very, very quickly.
How does your product compare to chemical fertilizers being used to provide the soil nutrients today?
Yeah, so chemical fertilizers typically sold on an NPK basis, nitrogen and potassium phosphate, and the farmers typically then need to add a lot of soil amendments. So we never say that we're a direct nitrogen replacement because food inherently does not have that much nitrogen. But we can, if we are selling to conventional farmers, mix in your nitrate chemical fertilizer into ours, and you can thereby actually use significantly less, because when you're feeding the soil these nutrients and kind of awakening them, well, you don't need that as much nitrogen as you typically would. So that's the way we really kind of pitch it. It is more of a soil amendment, but for the organic farmers, we are able to provide a nice slew of NPK to them, because getting liquid nitrogen to organic farmers is a tougher ask than your conventional farmers.
So there is some nitrogen in your product then? So it's
Correct. Yeah, right now we're selling a 3-2-1 liquid organic product out in California.
And it's your product is considered organic before you add the chemical fertilizers?
So of course, so the organic one is 100% our product, no chemicals obviously in it. We use food grade enzymes, and we're regulated by all the national fertilizer and animal feed boards. So that organic fertilizer is obviously only being sold to organic farmers. The conventional farmers do sometimes like to get more nitrogen in their land, so they would then mix in their chemical based, and it would obviously not be an organic fertilizer anymore.
There is some evidence, and I'm not certainly an expert in this, but that chemical fertilizers and other farming activities have an adverse impact on the environment. How does your product change that dynamic?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I just read a report from one of the universities that said the first 50% of nitrogen put on lands provides 80% of the benefit. The other 50% just provides 20% of the benefit, and it typically results in the majority of the runoff. I mean, if you look at the Mississippi, I think there's 300 million tons of nitrate chemical fertilizer that flowed down that river last year and creating a tremendous dead zone down in Louisiana. So there's huge environmental, and that's just one instance. I mean, you look at Florida with the whole algae blooms. You look at up in kind of the Cape Cod area with all their problems with nitrate runoff and the killing of the seafood industries. There's tremendous problems, and quite frankly, when we looked at the entire market, obviously, yes, we are creating a liquid organic fertilizer. But back to that infrastructure mindset, we said, how do we start to move the needle of the world as quick as possible? And something that one of our partners says, Howard Buffett, says, okay, I need to start to make the conventional farmers that much more environmentally sensitive and progressive. So if I can start to reduce the broad acres, the corn and soy farmers, their chemical consumption by even 10%, 15%, that is moving the needle of hundreds of millions of acres and thereby hundreds of millions of tons of nitrate chemical consumption. So we look at these kind of as a two parallel. The organic market is great. That's where we're targeting as well. But we are also extremely cautious and conscious of the conventional market. How do we keep progressing them, knowing that they need to, obviously, every farmer needs to maintain their profitability.
Yeah, and at the same time, we need to see them increase sustainability, it seems. Yep. I mean, that's the fundamental objective, I think, that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, well, it's a combination of sustainability and profitability. No one's just going to change for sustainability issues. I wish we were at that time of society, but quite frankly, we took the notion that says, I need to be economical, and oh, by the way, I'm extremely sustainable.
Yeah. Now, Justin, a lot of people look up to you and admire you. Who do you look up to as a role model?
Well, the obvious one, I think, is my father. I have a lot of him and his desires and focus in me. But the other one, I think, is, I know it's a big name now, but it's Elon Musk. I think his mindset and his ability to problem solve. And, I mean, you look at the way Tesla was kind of built up, and even now SpaceX, he took an idea that a lot of people laughed at him. A lot of people said, there's no way that you have the industry norms and you have that structure put in place where it's the crazy ideas and these kind of crazy thoughts and just kind of determination that I think helps problem solve, and of course surrounding yourselves with the right people that are understanding and knowledgeable about what you want to do and how you want to do it, I think is what he did, and I think is something that I'm trying to mirror as well as we start to really grow this business.
Why is this so important to you to create a sustainable business? Clearly, there are plenty of opportunities to make money. You could be doing anything. Why do something that would benefit the world?
I look at life and what is your purpose and what really, it's the corny kind of thing, but what gets you up every morning. I've never worked harder in my life. I'm up at 5 a.m. every morning and I'm thinking solely about this. I believe that it is not a matter of should we be changing, but it's that, quite frankly, we need to be changing. I believe that we can as a society over the next 5 years, 10 years. And if we don't start to really make significant changes, I have a grim picture of the next 50 to 70 years. And so a lot of that kind of that thought process not only has focused me onto this, but I think I kind of look back at the life that I've been able to and been fortunate enough to kind of grow up in and see that there's a lot of different connections in the road that I've kind of taken with myself, my brother, and my father that have hopefully led us to this opportunity that can leave a lasting legacy of changing an industry is really our focus and our goal. It's I think people are becoming more concerned about their supply chain, about where their food is coming from. Where is it coming from now, and how is it coming to us in the next 5 years? And what are our children eating, and how are they going to continue to get good nutrients and all of that in combination then with all of climate change and the potential effects of that. I just hope that this is one solution out of the many solutions that we need for climate change. And to create a completely closed loop agricultural system. And it's funny, it's what we're doing is not so revolutionary as I'm going to put a man on Mars, but it's actually, when you look at what we're doing, it's actually reverting society back to the way we used to be back in the 20th century or 19th, where every waste, everything on your plate was utilized for a reason. It was fed to the pig right next door because you knew that he was providing a benefit to you next week. So we're now just taking the 21st century on a large-scale infrastructure level back to the way we used to be, but in an efficient manner that fits into current and present-day practices and infrastructure.
That's a fascinating response. I appreciate you sharing that. Justin, what's your superpower?
I certainly don't have one. I like to think that I've gotten this from my father and the people that I've surrounded myself with. I think treating everyone in the same way, in a respectful way. Everyone has a voice and everyone has an opinion, and appreciating that. But more so, I want to do good with good people. And it's not the economics that are driving our desires and our focus. It's really, let's do good with good people, and at the end of the day, let's hopefully build something that's special, but that has a transpiring effect upon millions and millions of people, to give everyone else hopefully a better life too.
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, Justin. Before you go, tell us how people can learn more about what you're doing and connect with you personally.
I'm a big LinkedIn guy. You give me a message on that, I will respond within a day or so. I'm also actually speaking this coming September at the Food Tank Summit, sponsored by Rockefeller, as well as the Concordia event in parallel with the UN Global Summit. So hopefully agriculture and food waste and how to create more of a closed loop agricultural system is something that we can get to the forefront of conversation, because I think everyone relies upon it, and it's a big driver of the global economy.
Fantastic. Well, Justin, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us, and we certainly wish you every success in eliminating food waste around the world.
Thank you.
All righty, let's do some good.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was recorded via Google Hangouts on Air and is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com. Learn more about Devin's work at yourmarkontheworld.com.